Hi, everybody. This is Tim Allen for the Flint Courier, and today we're going to talk with Granite High School Athletic Director and teacher JB Chandler about his new book and maybe some things that there's still a lot of summer left. Great purchase and great things to do. So welcome, JB.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you have another one that you did, The Old Road to Glacier, which was another, looks like stories and photos. And is this one focused more on like day trip kind of things? Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll tell you a little bit of history. So my first one, it's called The Old Road to Glacier. I wrote that one 3 years ago. And the reason why I put it together is I was a freelance writer for a magazine out of Great Falls. And I did that for a couple years, and I realized after a couple years I had quite a few articles. And I decided I should just compile it together. I had to do it on my own, and I went through a company to do it, and that's what I have here, the old Road to Glacier. Most of the stories, of course, take place around Great Falls on the way to Glacier National Park. Also other places along the High Line. I'm originally from Plentywood, Montana, so a couple stories from Plentywood makes it into this magazine. So then we moved here to Philipsburg 3 years ago as well, and my wife has a spot down at the Meadowlark Moose, an art shop here in Philipsburg. So I decided I would try to put my magazine down there. And even though the articles and the pictures aren't from the area, I usually sell a couple magazines every month down there. So then, of course, the gal who runs the Meadowlark Moose, Leslie Boomer, she let me know that if I could come up with a book about the area, she thought it would that it would do well. And of course, I live here. I love exploring Montana. I love hiking. I love, if you buy the magazine, you can tell I love writing and photography. And so what I basically did is over the course of just me living here in Philipsburg, I go and do things and took pictures, wrote articles about the things you can do around Philipsburg. And then that way, when somebody comes to visit Philipsburg, of course, everybody knows about the Sweet Palace and Gem Mountain. And don't get me wrong, they're in the magazine too.
And the brewery.
And the brewery, they're in the magazine too. Don't get me wrong. But then there's other places. For example, Fuse Lake is a wonderful hike. It's going up Scalcahoe Road. It's an easy hike. The trail is relatively easy. I just recommend going in early July, not June like when I went, because it's still pretty icy up there.
Oh, really?
But
wow.
But those are the types of day trips that I had in here, because I think a lot of times when people come to Philipsburg, they get their candy and they get their beer, and then they're like, "What else?"
Yeah, what else am I going to
do? So, of course, because I'm a hiker, because I'm an outdoorsman, most of the things are geared towards exactly that. So, lakes, Moose Lake, Fuse Lake, whenever there's a opportunity to get in the water, it's always fun to do that. So, I included Georgetown Lake, East Fork Reservoir. These are both locations you can drive right up to. But then there's also lakes that take a minute to get there. And these are on the other side of the Scalcahoe Pass, but Painted Rock State Park, southwest of Darby, or Como Lake, which is northwest of Hamilton. All of these places are wonderful to visit, but a lot of times people don't know about them.
Right.
So hopefully that's what I'm hoping, is that people who come to Philipsburg and want something else to do can take a look and
that Scalcahoe Road is in itself just a beautiful drive.
Oh, absolutely.
The falls that are up there, and I've made that a few times myself. So,
in fact, that's an article unto itself. Just going over the Scalcahoe Pass to Hamilton is a Montana adventure unto itself. But then a lot of times people don't realize, well, if I'm heading up to Scalcahoe Pass, there's a wonderful lake, Mud Lake. It sounds gross, but it's actually a wonderful lake, and it's just right off the road. When you're traveling up Scalcahoe, you might have noticed the glint of blue to the left.
Yeah.
But if you don't notice it, I don't even know if there's a sign there, to be honest.
Huh.
But it's a wonderful spot to hang out with if you got a dog to hang out with on the lake. It's even got some fishing spots.
Now, do you review the fishing as far as how good it is?
Oh,
maybe that's another book.
Well, that's what me and my wife have always talked about, is I should compile a rating of all of these places I go to. Now, I admit I don't lug a fishing pole everywhere I go to.
Sure.
That would be an interesting, a different magazine, I guess, the fishing magazine. But even just to rate the hikes and the waterfalls, just to know what you're going to. And I guess what I'll say is at both of these books, the locations I'm going to are always unique, in my opinion. And these ones, the ones in my newest one, Montana Adventures Philipsburg, these ones are oriented mostly towards a day trip, something that you could do in one day. Where some of these old road to Glacier, you gotta be planning on some of these trips. And not to say you couldn't do it in a day, but if you're going up to, anytime you're going up to Glacier National Park, it's worth a camp out the night before.
Sure. And so, how much are these?
Sure.
And the Meadowlark Moose, right?
Sure, yep. So I was just going to repeat it too. So the Meadowlark Moose, that's downtown Philipsburg on Broadway. It's right across the street from Gem Mountain. And inside both of the magazines are $25 a piece. If you go on the days I'm working, I can sure autograph it for you. Yeah, you could go there, and of course you can find many other wonderful items at the Meadowlark Moose. Many others. We have 19 artists who have goods down at the Meadowlark Moose. So you get a wide variety of amazing products. And it's all in a good price range, anything from $5 all the way up to $100.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So any other, now that you've completed this, do you have anything else on the horizon you're thinking of? Or
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, again, I have to give a lot of credit to my wife, Sarah. She's usually on many of these adventures with me. And what she thought, and it's kind of why the title of this magazine is Montana Adventures Philipsburg, is that the thought maybe we could do, the next book might be Montana Adventures Hamilton. And then because it's just a hop and a skip over, I can focus a lot of stories on the Hamilton area, and then kind of take some of the articles from the Philipsburg article to enhance the Hamilton article. And then I'd kind of have a kind of an area, so to speak.
Sure.
But I guess I will tell you, I love visiting Montana. I love traveling all over. So just to let you know, the next location I'm going this week is I'm going to the Bighorn Canyon.
Oh, wow.
As well as the Battle of Little Bighorn reenactment.
Wow. Oh, that's coming up, isn't it?
It's going to be Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, if anybody else is interested.
I've heard that. I saw a thing on Expedition Unknown, I think is what it was, with Josh Gates did that.
Yep.
And participated in that. And of course, when you're dressed in blue, you're not going to survive that battle.
Of course. No, I'm kind of interested because it is over 3 days, so I don't know if I'll be there on Sunday. So I don't know if there's a different, if there'll be a different aspect of the battle each day.
Sure.
Because obviously everybody wants to watch Custer's Last Stand.
Sure.
But maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a rationale to do Renos Retreat.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone wants to cosplay and die. So.
Yeah. Exactly. So it should be a wonderful weekend. But I guess what I'm letting you know is that though I have plans to do an area in Hamilton, or I'd love to even do Butte, or I'm wearing a shirt from the Big Hole Valley. So Wisdom and Jackson are both wonderful areas. But honestly, Tim, I could drop a magazine about anywhere in Montana almost, because I could. Because I travel extensively and
your social media. When we're friends on Facebook. During the summer, as soon as it starts warming up, it's like a travel blog from just watching you and your wife taking pictures everywhere. So. All right. Well, man. And now, are these available online too? Can people buy them online? How would they do that?
So I guess I'm not savvy enough. I don't have. They're not on Amazon or any website. I've like you just mentioned, Facebook. I've posted on Facebook. If you reach out to the Meadowlark Moose, of course, I don't have their phone number, but I guess
we'll look up their phone number, and if they have a website, we'll get that on the screen too, so people know what's going on. And of course,
and I guess I can drop all of my contact information for this interview as well.
All right, man. Well, Dan, thank you very much. This is exciting. These are, and we're hopefully going to have some pictures here that we'll show you as we're talking here, and some good stuff. But man, this to me is the kind of thing I love, because my wife is from here, but she kind of forgets things because she lived here so long.
Absolutely.
And that documentary that Jim Jenner and some other people did, Saving the Berg, was fascinating to me. And for my wife, she's like, "Oh, I haven't seen so-and-so in 20 years, and I haven't heard about that before." So it was so well done, and I'm sure this is right up that alley. So
it's amazing when you go to these small local spots about how it's just like it's a rule of thumb. Everybody knows about these things in small towns. But unfortunately what's happening, maybe not necessarily in Philipsburg, but definitely in smaller towns, is maybe more in line with my first magazine, The Old Road to Glacier. When you go to Hobson, Montana, it's a town that's just, it's on the decline.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these stories need to be cataloged before they're gone. And for a lot of people, it just seems like everybody knows these stories.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if somebody isn't trying to compile the stories, it doesn't happen.
They kind of fade into lore at some point, and then you're not really sure if it exists or it does exist.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how much time you want to blab, but I can tell you a couple funny stories from from the magazines if you want. So one of the things I think is mandatory in Montana, because we live a hard life in Montana. The winters are hard, so I think it's important to have a sense of humor. So one of my absolute favorite stories, and it's from my original one, The Old Road to Glacier. It's called No Drinks for the Old Stiff. Okay, so here's the story, and this takes place. It actually happened north of Chester, Montana. So this is back in the late 1800s when shepherds and sheep were still on the High Line. They're not really there anymore. Sheep, right. It's harder to run sheep these days. But anyway, back in those days, the shepherd was just living in a tent. Well, man, when it gets to February, unfortunately, some shepherds freeze to death. So the good people of Chester decided they'd have to send out a posse to go pick up the shepherd so that he could have a proper burial. And so they set off at 8 a.m., right at sunrise, and traveled all night till midnight to go pick him up, and got back. And back in those days in Chester, Montana, the bars were always open. Yeah. So when they got back at 2 a.m., of course, the cowboys who went to get the shepherd were like, "Well, let's go inside and have a drink." Yeah. And of course, if anybody doesn't already know about Montana, bars have always been the social spot for people. So they go into the bar, and as they're ordering drinks, one of the fellers says, "Well, it seems awfully rude to leave the frozen shepherd outside in the wagon." So they decide to bring him in and prop him up against the bar, and the bartender didn't really notice. And when they order another round, the bartender gives the frozen shepherd a drink. And I don't know if the fellers were just messing with them, but when the bartender wasn't looking, they'd take a drink of the frozen guy's drink. And then, once it gets, again, in Montana, it's always about paying for other people's rounds. So when it got to the fourth round, the bartender was pretty insistent that the frozen stiff was supposed to buy the next drink. And of course, there's no response, and the cowboys are kind of watching it. And then all of a sudden, the bartender just leaps across the bar and is just pummeling the frozen stiff. And that's when he realizes, to his horror, that this guy is dead. And the bartender looks to the cowboys and goes, "Oh my God, you guys saw it, right? He hit me first."
That is awesome.
So the important thing is though we have this terrible instance, a shepherd dying, we've concocted this amazing Montana story that almost can only happen in Montana.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
So the way I found that story, and I'll have to admit, I have less of my historical stories in the Montana adventures. But what I've done to find that story in particular is I was looking through those old historical books that communities put out. Most of them put them out around 1976 to coincide with the bicentennial of America. So you find these little stories. There's no like star that says, hey, here's the best story in the book.
You got to
read through the whole thing to find it. And,
that's awesome.
And I've found it and reimagined it in this magazine.
Well, I know there was a story that I stumbled across about New Chicago.
Okay.
That, I think there was a wife and a husband, and somehow the wife ended up killing the husband in some fracas. I mean, it was some. But as I was reading through, I'm really sorry I don't have all the details.
Oh, it's okay.
But I remember that it was just this, what in the heck happened out here? How did this happen? How did we get to this place?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's hilarious. He hit me first. All right, you got one more?
I do. I got one more funny story. So I forget what this one's called, but this one's out of Wolf Creek. Wolf Creek is between Great Falls and Helena, Montana. So again, this is back in the old days. A lot of these communities saw their glory period in the late 1800s.
Sure.
You know, during the early mining period. So when this was not only was Wolf Creek important, but one of the county commissioners lived out on this road. So here's the story. I remember the guy's name was Joe. Okay, so Joe is, again, I hate that it becomes the crux of the story, but of course old Joe is leaving the bar from Wolf Creek one night. And when he's traveling down the road, he's just bumping and bumping and bumping. He just cannot believe how bad the roads are, you know, but of course it's, 10 p.m., it's late,
sure.
And he gets about a mile and a half down the road, and he's like, all right, I cannot believe the road is this bad. And he goes, I live on the same road as our county commissioner. And he goes, I know it's late, but of course he's a little drunk. He goes, I'm going to pull over and I'm going to go holler at the county commissioner and ask him, what's wrong with this road? So he finally gets up to him and he gets off the wagon and he's, back in those days, again, doesn't matter what time of night.
Yeah.
you hear people arriving.
Yeah.
So the county commissioner is out on the porch before Joe, and let's face it, Joe is probably making a loud ruckus as he's arriving too. So Joe just steps out and he's like, these roads, county commissioner, I can't believe how bad these roads are. And the county commissioner goes, well, Joe, here's the rub. You're missing one of your wheels. So old Joe is just getting dragged down the road by his horse in a three-wheeled wagon. They had no idea.
And perfectly relatable to people today who are constantly complaining about roads in Montana.
Absolutely. And everybody in Montana knows the county commissioner on some road.
Yeah.
So this is just an ongoing story forever, really.
Man, that's amazing.
And I think I got one more, Jeff, only because it's from the area.
Okay.
Do you want to hear one more?
Let's go one more. Last one.
So here's one from Blackfoot City. So I think this is, if you go east of Helmsville, I think that's where Blackfoot City once existed. Again, this is the early mining days.
Sure.
So, but this is when some farmers are out on these mountain valleys. And again, in this early time period, there's not a lot of people. There's just not. So two farmers end up getting in an argument over a land boundary, and what ended up happening is one guy shot the other one, and but again, back in those days, maybe people were just more honest, but the guy decided he was going to fess up and drag the guy to Blackfoot City and turn himself in. Well, when he got to Blackfoot City, the courthouse wasn't open. But the bar was. So similar to our old stiff, they decided that they'd just drag the guy into the bar as they're having drinks. And as luck would have it, Tim, the official coroner for the area happened to be the bartender.
Okay.
So the bartender gets all of his equipment out, getting ready to investigate what happened to the gentleman who's now just bleeding. He's a bit long dead, but just bleeding on the pool table.
Sure.
And of course, the guy, as he was getting his equipment, they had a couple drinks, just to warm up. And after investigating the gentleman, it was decided that the farmer was free to go because the guy on the pool table died as a result of lead poisoning.
Wow.
But when the judge and the coroner is also the bartender, sometimes things slide in old Montana.
Good to know.
So if you want to hear any of these stories, my historical stories are in my Old Road to Glacier. But I guess just to reiterate, all of my day trip ideas for the Philipsburg area.
Well, the Old Road to Glacier, and then Montana Adventures Philipsburg, both by JB Chandler. JB, thanks for stopping by. You can get it at Meadowlark Moose. And if we'll get the phone number, and if they have a website, we'll put that up for Meadowlark Moose. $25 a piece, and if JB happens to be there, you can get them signed.
Absolutely. Or come and see me at the school. I'll sign it for you.
All right, good deal. Or a basketball or a volleyball game.
Absolutely. Any sporting events, I'll always be there for sure. You'll just look for the guy at the sports jacket.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, JB.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, that'll do it for the Flint Courier. This has been Tim Allen.